By 6 on a Sunday morning, the ER cafeteria was so quiet I could hear the ice maker cycling behind the counter, that low mechanical groan filling in for conversation neither of us wanted to start first. 7 years I'd worked nights with Nathan. 7 years of trading blood pressure numbers across a curtain, of him tossing me a granola bar when he clocked I hadn't eaten, of me pretending I didn't notice the way he always waited for my shift to end before he'd let himself leave. I got there first that morning, dropped into the booth by the window because it was the only one not stacked with chairs, and I didn't even hear him come in until he set a coffee down in front of me. Black, extra shot, exactly how I drink it, though I couldn't remember the last time I told him that out loud. "You look like you got hit by the code we just ran," he said, sliding into the seat across from me. "Feels about right." I wrapped both hands around the cup. "You're not exactly glowing either." He laughed, quiet, tired, real. We'd lost a patient 2 hours earlier, an 81-year-old man whose wife had been in the waiting room the whole time, and neither of us had said much since. That's the thing nobody tells you about this job. Some mornings the silence after a loss is the only honest conversation you can manage, and you end up sharing it with whoever happens to still be standing. "Can I ask you something?" Nathan said, turning his cup a quarter turn on the table, not looking at me. "And you can tell me I'm out of line." "You're rarely out of line. It's one of your more annoying qualities." That got a real smile out of him. Why didn't either of us ever say anything? 7 years. I've watched you go through 2 boyfriends and a whole apartment move, and every single time I told myself it wasn't my business. I felt my chest go tight in that specific way it does right before you say something you can't take back. Because if it went wrong, I'd have lost the best part of working here. You were the one person who made a bad shift bearable. I wasn't going to risk that for a maybe. And if it went right? Then I guess I wasted 7 years being careful. He didn't say anything for a second, just looked at me the way he looks at a patient chart when something isn't adding up, like he was trying to find the piece he'd missed. Outside the window, the sky was doing that pale gray thing it does before sunrise, and somewhere down the hall a cartwheel squeaked against the linoleum, ordinary hospital sounds that had somehow never felt this loud before. "I got engaged once," he said suddenly. 3 years ago. Broke it off 2 months before the wedding. I remember. You never said why. Because I spent the whole engagement comparing every conversation I had with her to the ones I had with you on a bad night in the break room, and I couldn't make it stop. I told myself that was insane. Guy compares his fiancée to his work friend, that's a him problem, not a some people are just meant for each other problem. I laughed, more out of nerves than anything, because I didn't know what to do with my hands or my face or the fact that my heart was going like I'd just run a code myself. That's either the most romantic or the most unhinged thing you've ever told me. Probably both. I think about that moment a lot, actually, how easy it would have been to make a joke and let it slide past us the way we'd let 100 almost moments slide past us before. I've talked to other nurses, other residents, people who've worked 20 years next to somebody and never once crossed the line, and I used to think that kind of restraint was a virtue. Now I wonder how many of them go home at night wishing they'd just said the thing. "I'm not 81 and dying alone in a waiting room," I said finally, which is a strange thing to say to someone, I know, but it made sense to both of us in that room at that hour. "I don't want to run out the clock being careful." Nathan reached across the table and took my hand, right there in the empty cafeteria, coffee going cold between us, and it didn't feel like a beginning so much as something that had already been happening for 7 years and had finally been allowed to catch up to itself. "So what happens Monday?" he said. "When we're back on the floor and Dr. Alvarez is asking why we're both smiling at the medcart." "I have absolutely no idea," I told him. "But I'd rather figure it out with you than keep pretending I don't want to." We sat there until the cafeteria staff came in to start the breakfast line, 2 people who'd spent 7 years being sensible finally admitting that sensible had cost them something too. I don't know if I'd tell you we made the right call, waiting that long, or if I'd tell you we wasted good years being scared. Maybe both things are true at once. What I do know is that some mornings, the last coffee after a hard shift isn't about the coffee at all, it's about who you're still willing to sit across from once the whole world's gone quiet, and whether you finally say what you've been swallowing for years, or let it go cold in the cup instead.